Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you all and welcome to the channel. In this video we will discuss the FileWriter class. You probably have thought, according to the pattern of previous videos, that I will cover file reader or the file input stream before we cover the output stream. There is a reason why I am covering writing before reading for files. You will see later on in the next episode, bi'idhnillah and God willing. Now, for the purpose behind choosing the FileWriter class before choosing File Output Stream class is because FileWriter is more convenient when creating text files as opposed to File Output Stream, which is related to general byte streams. So it could be images, audio, and so on and so forth. Whereas to try and elucidate the functionality of writing to a class, I will be creating a text file. And thus I thought it would be best to start with this, though we will cover inshallah bi'idhnillah and God willing the file input and output stream classes later on bi'idhnillah. But before we begin today's lesson, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wal-mursaleen, Sayyiduna Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin, warda Allahumma anna ma'ahum ajma'in, Allahumma amin. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. We begin in the name of Allah, the most merciful in this life and in the hereafter. We thank Him for all of His blessings that He has bestowed upon us, for they are innumerable. And we pray that we follow in the footsteps of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his fellow companions. Amen. We also ask for prayers and blessings to be bestowed upon Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family, as they were bestowed upon Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, and his family. Now, before we tackle the example for the FileWriter class, let us highlight the name or the different roots within the name to derive the functionality. Whenever you see writer or reader in the name of the class, know that you are automatically and thus exclusively dealing with character streams only. You are not interacting or manipulating byte streams or binary streams. Now, when you see the term file, you know the type of stream you will be either writing to or reading from. For example, previously we covered writing to the console or to the terminal and reading from the console or from the terminal through the input of the user, which was the keyboard. In this scenario, the stream is different. It is no longer the console. It is a file in this case. So here we will be writing to a file, specifically a character stream file or a text file. And in the next episode, when we cover this class, bi'idhnillah and God willing, we will be reading not from the keyboard or from the user input this time, but we will be reading from a pre-existing file or a text file, to be precise, because this is also related to the character stream. Hopefully, this division assists you in identifying the nature of the class. Now, before we cover the example, let us read about the class. So I have the documentation here for 17. If you are using a later version, feel free to do so. I am merely using 17 because it is LTS or long-term support, but I feel it will be replaced with 20 soon, if I recall correctly. Possibly this year. I have to check the schedule. So we need the module Java base. We don't really care about any of this. then Java IO, because it is related to input and output. Then we will cover this later. I was deliberating if I should cover this before covering file reader or writer, but I felt it would be best to cover this afterwards. That is my personal opinion. I could be mistaken, but that is how I decided to continue with this subseries. Now, if we have FileWriter here, closable, as in you need to close it, and auto-closable, which functions automatically for the try and catch, try with resources. We will cover that at the end of the Java IO subseries, بإذن and God willing. And it extends output stream writer, which we covered previously, writes text to character files or text files using a default buffer size. So default as in it is already predefined. Encoding from characters to bytes using either a specified character set or the default character set. I will be providing an example, or rather I will create a lecture dedicated to character sets just to show you that you can write and read in different languages, not only in English. But we will cover that later, inshallah, bi'idhnillah. Whether or not a file is available or may be created depends upon the underlying platform. Some platforms in particular allow a file to be opened for writing by only one file writer at a time. In such situations, the constructors in this class will fail if the file involved is already open. This is, as you see, related to the platform, if it is Windows or Linux or Macintosh and so on and so forth, but we are using Windows, so we will see the functionality for that platform. Now, as you can see here, the FileWriter class is meant for writing streams of characters, so only text files. For writing streams of raw bytes, use the file output stream. So if you wish to write a picture, for example, or an image, you cannot use the FileWriter class to save that image. You can use this, and we will see that later on, bi'idhnillah and God willing. Now let us take a look at the constructors. Here it uses a file, it accepts a file object, which we will discuss later, and we will also discuss the appending argument here, but we will focus on these for now. So here you pass in the name of a file as a string, but it uses the default character set, which is basically the ASCII code. As in, it reads only English. It cannot read UTF-8 or Unicode encoding. So if you are passing a file, or if you wish to save or write a file in another language, you cannot use this. You will have to use this or this. And then we will see the Boolean append shortly. Then it inherited the methods from the writer and output stream writer class. These are the constructors. I want to check. Oh, okay. Well, we have covered the write methods from the previous classes. I do not believe we covered append, though, if I recall correctly. Yeah. We did not cover append, mainly because the writer class is an abstract class, so we could not use it. But we will see how append functions here, though you can use it in the constructor here to save you time. Now let us start with an example. Oh, I forgot to write the name of the lesson today. FileWriter. Okay. So I will create a file that contains only 2 lines for simplicity and swiftness. Let us see how I can write a text file in Java and have Java save that file for me. Normally, I will open Notepad here. If I wish to save a text file, I will do the following. So I will write my text file, then I will save it onto the desktop and name it, let us call it the waves of life.txt, as you can see here, and save. Now it has been saved. So let me show you the file on the desktop, and as you can see, it is right here, and I can open it and edit it if I wish. That is what we will be exactly doing, but through Java. So instead of using the graphical user interface shell of the computer, we will accomplish this and then this through the FileWriter class. Let us take a look. Firstly, let us create the FileWriter object. This, of course, must be done through the try-catch blocks, but I will utilize the Zahi way, which is not the recommended approach for Java I/O, but simply to save time. And of course, you need to import it, and I will call it writer is equal to new FileWriter. Oh, I forgot the equal. Now, if you remember from the constructors here, you do not have an empty constructor. You must pass in an argument. What is the argument? We mentioned that we will be using these constructors, so we need to pass in the file name. Remember the name I used for the file, the waves of life? That is what you pass into the constructor. So that is what I will do here, the waves of life. Now, this is extremely important to remember. The file name includes the file extension. You must add the dot and the file extension to the file name. Otherwise, this class and its respective methods will cease to function properly. You must add the file extension to the file name. Otherwise, you will have issues. So I would like to emphasize it yet again. You must add the file extension to the file name. Since we are using a FileWriter, this is the only file we can use, at least from my knowledge. There could be other text files that we can use. I am uncertain. But we can use the text file here. So this line here is what we did for the notepad here. File, save, and then enter the file name. This line did these two steps. It will create the file, then save it under the name that we chose, and then click save. The only difference between this approach and this approach is the location of that file. Here, I choose to save it on the desktop. Where will this line save it? We will discuss that in a moment. But I just wanted to show you what this line accomplishes. You know what? I will leave Notepad empty. And I will delete this file here because I will definitely need to overwrite it. So there is no need to keep it. Now, what this line will do is the following. Save the waves of life. Save. But it is still empty. So we need to actually type into it the words. And that is what we will do in the next step. What method can we use to actually write characters to a file? We have it here, the write method that we have been using long ago. So we will say writer dot write, and here in here we write the text that we wish to write into this file here. Now remember, the write method provided by the output stream reader does not limit you only to passing a character. You can pass an entire string, as in an entire line. You can pass an entire line through the write method. You are no longer limited to passing a single character every time. So that is why the writer classes provide extra functionality. So we will say here, crests and troughs, the waves of life. And so what I did right now is do this, the waves of life. Now I wish to press enter and create the new line, so I will simply add it here like so, and then right. One shalt know joy, but also strife. And this will end it, so I will write this line here. One shalt know joy, but also strife. Okay. Now, when we execute this code, of course I need to add writer.close, but there is no need for that considering how short the program is, but you will definitely need to close it if you are writing a professional application. Now let us run this and see if this file is actually created, and if it will be created, will it contain these two lines? And most importantly, where will this file be created? So when I press play here or run, I am basically saving it like so. Now let us execute the program. And keep your eyes here. You probably have seen that this file has been added. If not, I will erase it and I will execute the program again. Pay attention to this area right here. You see it ended, but it did not print anything because we are not writing to the console anymore. We are writing to a file, and it has created the file for us, as you can see here. And if I double click this, you will see that the file is empty, as expected. You will see why in just a moment. Now here is where the file has been created, the location of the file. If I collapse this, and if I collapse this and then expand it, you will see that this file has been added to this folder, the root of the project, which is the folder called tutorial. It is not in source. I will show you here. If I open in Explorer, here is the folder tutorial, which we have been using. And here is the file. It is not in source, it is in the main space of the file, folder, sorry. Also known as the root directory for this folder. I will not discuss the hierarchy of directories or folders in this video. I will dedicate an entire video to the hierarchy of folders later on, inshallah, bi'ithnillah, and God willing, to show you the definition of a root directory and subdirectories. combined with the accessibility for the root directory and subdirectories or super directories or parent directories, how you can access files between different directories. So I will discuss that later on, بإذن and God willing. Why is the file empty? What happened to these two lines? Well, if you recall, we always need to, what do you do in the bathroom? You flush after you use it, of course. Or sometimes before, if you step into a public bathroom and someone left a crime scene there, then you will need to flush it before. But anyways, once we cover the try with resources block, you will no longer need to worry about this. We will see later on, بإذن and God willing. You know what? Just to cement proper coding practices into your mind, I will use writer.close, even if the program is short. Now let us run this again and see if the lines will be printed. Did I delete this? Sorry, I do not recall if I deleted it or not, so now I know it is deleted. There we go. Now, once I access, now I see the lines here. Am I able to fuse these two lines into one here? Let us take a look and see. Like so. And I will remove this from compilation. Then I will delete this and run it again. So it has been created, and as you can see, the same functionality. Perfect. Now, oh man, I closed Notepad again. I apologize. Okay. So remember, I do have the file created already onto the desktop here. Now, what would happen if I do the following? I wish to add extra text to this file here, just as an example. So I wish to add more to this file. How would I do that? Well, you probably would say, I will just continue writing. Now, hold on, I need to retrieve the text that I will be using. Okay, I have it here. Let us see. Self lost within the deep. Or actually, I will use a text block instead, like so. Self lost within the deep. Spirit chained in the keep. I will not write the full poem, do not worry. I shut lips with a seal. Soul departed, feelings unreal. There is still more to the poem, but I will leave it as is for now. Since this already exists in the file, I do not need to write it again. I will just add the extra text here. Now, let us see what happens if I do this. Execute. Okay, now let us take a look at the file. The original text that was here is no longer present. So what did that accomplish? It accomplished the following. I will just copy this. It overwrote the original text. Like so. Save. and now that is the new text. So it overwrote the original file with the new information. But that is not what I wish for. I wish to add to the file instead of overwrite the file. So how can I add text to an already created file? I wish to add the text here like so. Where is the there? Like so. I wish to add these two lines to an already pre-existing file. That is where append plays a role. The word append revolves around adding information to the end of the file. For example, this was the end of the file. Now I wish to append more information to the end of the file. That is what appending refers to. So what I can do is, firstly, I will remove these from compilation. I will create the file anew, just to show you how appending functions. I will create this file here again. And you will see here that it has been created. Now, if I wish to add more lines to the same file, I will add an extra argument here, which is append, true or false. If I set it to true, I am informing the FileWriter class that I need to add more information to the file. If I set it to false, it means I wish to overwrite that file. So I will set it to true, and I will add the new information here. So this should be added after this line. So starting at line 3 onwards. Let us test it. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay, nothing happened because it is writing to a file, not to the console. Now let us check. And as you can see, it has added the new lines here. But since I do not have a new line here, that is why it added it to the same line. So just to demonstrate again, false. This will overwrite it. Let us take a look. As you can see, it overwrote it. Then I will set this to true. Now since this has a new line character, this should start at line 3 as opposed to the previous attempt. And there we have it. Oh, I added it twice. Oh, I forgot to remove this from compilation. So I will delete those two, like so. But as you can see, it added it to a new line now, because here it ends with a new line character. Is there another approach to this other than the constructor for appending? Let us take a look. So we have this here. Oh yeah, I will keep the new line character. And then execute this, so the file would be overwritten like so. Now, is there another approach to append text? So I will cut this and delete this method and see if there is another method I could use. The append method here. You can append a character sequence or a character. Now, if I do this. Is this considered a character sequence? Well, let us test it and see. Now if I double click here, no, it overwrote it yet again. Well, what if I create this, and once it has been created, I append just the character. Append C, for example. Let us test it. Okay, apologies for that. I just had to confirm my suspicions. The reason append does not function as expected here is because, and I checked the documentation here, an invocation of this method behaves in exactly the same way as .write. So it behaves in the same fashion, which means that if you wish to actually append, you must do so from the constructor, not from this method. So I will return this like so here and execute this so that I have the file written here. You can add a message on the console if you are accustomed to it. File saved, for example. That way you know something was achieved or accomplished, as opposed to an empty line that does not inform you of anything. And that is it with regards to this lecture. We may return to the FileWriter class again, just to cover the constructor with the file object this time, as well as the char set. I will see, depending on my availability and my schedule, because currently my availability is rather tumultuous, to say the least. So that is why I have not been recording as diligently as I want to record. So I apologize for any inconveniences this may cause. But we will see what happens. I will try my best to cover what needs to be covered for this beginner's level. If it's not meant to be, we can certainly return to it in the intermediate and advanced sections of this course, bi'idhnillah, and God willing. I hope this lecture was helpful and beneficial to you all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Be safe, take care, and peace be upon you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد.